I'm so super excited to talk to dating coach Erika this week. Erika, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. I've been really excited to talk to you.
I've been following you on Instagram for a while now, and I just love what you are doing. I
Thank
love it.
you.
Everything that you're doing on Instagram, it's this no nonsense dating advice, which I feel like we need more of. So amazing. Just what you're doing is amazing.
I really appreciate that. I was saying to someone earlier today, it's like most of my advice is pretty common sense. It's like if you don't know, ask, say the thing that's on your mind. But when you're dating, it's really easy for common sense to go out the window because we have such a narrow view of things and we're so in the situation that we can't see anything outside of it.
Well, and honestly, common sense is just hard these days. We all have a different version
Yeah,
of
maybe
it.
it's not common actually. Maybe it's like uncommon sense.
I was just having that conversation the other day where it's like, we just really don't have common sense anymore. So sometimes being reminded of the very small things is so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the compliment, so thank you.
Of course. Now let's get into it. Let's
All
talk
right.
dating. You talk about dating apps all the time because most people are on dating apps. So we're
Yes.
going to start with the very hot topic though. Do you think we need dating apps or can we meet
Yes.
people in real life?
Oh, we need dating apps. Because look, it's like, okay, had TikTok actually been removed, once you get used to having a thing in your life, it would have been very hard. I don't do TikTok, so it didn't affect me, but it would have been really hard to go back to a life where something you know exists no longer exists. And so maybe pre 2012 when Tinder came out, I would have said, "What is this newfangled?" Absolutely not. But now that it's here, it has actually provided a crutch for better or for worse so that people are not as good at approaching people in person. And so without the dating apps, many couples would not meet. So yes, we need them.
Oh, I love that. I think that's a good perspective to have. Now, with the dating apps, though, has come, as you mentioned, our lack of ability to connect with people,
That's correct.
which
I
is,
don't think that's just with dating apps. I think that's with technology in general. It's with everyone, behind their screens all the time. I mean, I'm on the subway and I just watch everyone playing their Candy Crush and reading whatever. And it's like no one interacts anymore. It has nothing to do with the dating apps. I think it's just the day and age we live in.
yes, absolutely. And to your point, it has created a little bit of a crutch. You're like, well, I don't have to go outside of my house and go meet anybody. I can just sit here while I'm watching a movie and swipe left and right.
Exactly. I mean, you eventually, hopefully, meet the person in real life because that is the point. But yeah, it has become easier and harder in many ways. Easier because, like you said, you don't have to get dressed, you don't have to put on pants. Harder in that because the dating apps are so prevalent in society, you have to, one, try harder to stand out, and two, weed through more people.
Yeah, I was on the phone with my mom earlier today and I was talking
Hmm.
about I am on the dating apps, so I
Hmm.
am a perfect specimen for this episode.
Oh
But I
boy.
was talking to my mom and I had a few first dates in the last few weeks and
Hmm.
she's like, "Well, how are they going? Where are we looking?" And I said, "Honestly, I don't know that we have much prospects. I could be wrong,
Okay.
but the way that it's looking, this is what it is." And it really is all about going through the experience and meeting people and understanding what you like and what you don't like.
Yes. And it's about putting in the time and energy and effort to doing the online dating apps well. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people think they're too good for it. I shouldn't have to put in the work. I shouldn't have to do it. It should be easy. Nothing in life is easy. Nothing in life that's actually important is easy. If you get laid off, you're not going to just like put together a crummy cover letter and resume and then send out a few and be like, oh, well, it didn't work. Guess I won't have a job. So why is it that people think it should be so easy? I would say choosing your, life partner is perhaps more important than choosing your next job. So I think most things in life that are important take time, energy, and work, and
Yes, they
sometimes
very much
money.
do. They do. And I also pay attention to, I was telling her that it's very important to me with intention. We were talking about the filters of
Hmm.
going and being on a dating app. Now,
Hmm.
and I want you to kind of talk through this with me and
Yeah.
share your thoughts. So, it's very important to me when I go to somebody's profile. Did they take the time to fill it out where I'm
Yes.
actually learning stuff about them?
Hmm.
Are they showing pictures that accurately represent their life?
Hmm.
Are they sharing correct information about who they are? That's
Correct.
filter one. This is all in just the
Yeah,
filter
and that's
one.
all normal stuff you should be looking for. Yes, because I always say lazy profile equals lazy dater. If someone writes no words or like a word for each prompt, they're not invested in this. And then later you're gonna wonder why the conversation's not going well. Of course it's not.
Yeah, they're showing you who they
I
are,
mean,
so
I'm
you
not
have to
trying to be
believe them.
negative, but like, come on.
Yeah, you know, they're showing you this is the type of person they are, and that's
Exactly.
fine.
This is what they're investing in this, and that's fine for them, but it's not for you.
Yes. So that's step one.
Hmm.
Then step two is when the matching happens. And I'm always paying attention. I don't have the time or energy to be 20 different people's pen pals. So are we going to sit here and at least get to know each other for a little bit? And
Hmm.
then it's going to evolve into a real date situation where we're
Correct.
going to meet in person.
Yes.
That's the second filter I'm paying attention to.
Yes, and a lot of people will just beat around the bush or want to be pen pals. And some it's because they never want to meet. And some it's because they don't know when the appropriate time to ask somebody out is. Because for every person out there who wants to meet sooner, there's another out there's like alter ego you who wants to chat for 2 months, which is ridiculous. And then there's someone at the other end thinking, well, I just asked the last person out within a week, and that person said, no, that's not long enough. So now they're waiting too long to ask the next one out, even though she's the person who wants to meet sooner. And it's just like no one wins. And so that's why I give a lot of scripts in what I share about how to move things along. Like, for example, if you're talking to someone for too long and you're like, okay, let's get a move on, you can say one of a few things. You could just simply ask if they want to meet. You could also say, I'm enjoying our conversation. Where should we go from here? Or that was a really good question. Maybe easier to chat in person. Any of those should lead to a date if it's going to lead to a date.
Yes, oh gosh, I'm so happy you say that because the pen paling thing is what's super frustrating on dating apps because you get on there with great intentions.
Hmm.
When the constant pen paling happens, you get very frustrated. Why do you think it is that people find themselves in this kind of rotating pen pal type situation?
Again, I think most people are generally clueless. They don't know how or when to transition from that conversation to the date. And so if I can do anything to help people speed that up, I certainly will. I don't think in general, I don't think people have some nefarious intentions to just waste your time on that. Some people do, sure. Some people are doing it for that validation. Oh, look at me. I'm still desirable, but I never want to meet these people. Oh, I'm just out of a relationship. I don't actually want to date. I just want to make sure people still like me. Yeah, of course, there are some people out there like that. But on the whole, I think people generally do want to meet, and they really just don't like no one taught this skill in school. It's a new skill. And so people really just don't know. So I would say give the benefit of the doubt. That's why you're going to use your language to try to get it closer to a date or just ask yourself. And then you know from their answer because they could either just not answer you, in which case there's clearly no date. They could ignore your suggestion of meeting, in which case they either didn't understand or have no interest in meeting, or they could grab it and run with it. You win either way because you know exactly what your next step is.
It's the basic skill of communicating, which,
It is, but again, maybe it's not basic. Maybe it's not
yeah.
common. Maybe it's not basic.
Yeah, you also have this step, which I love and I've incorporated into my dating, and it's been super helpful to find who really is a good communicator is the ask two questions and then make a statement.
Oh my God, yes. So tell everyone about it in case they don't know
Well,
because
I want you to tell them you're the
okay.
expert. You came up with it.
I mean you nailed it. So okay, so let's have a mock conversation. So we are on a dating app, we match and send me a message.
Okay.
What would you ask me? Any whatever, anything, I don't care.
Hi, Erica. What are your favorite genres of food?
I love Italian and Thai.
Oh, that's really exciting. What's your favorite place in town to go to?
Um, there's this place called Regent Thai I really like.
Oh, that's really good.
You
We just
nailed
did
it.
it.
We did it. That was the exercise. So, exactly what we did here. You're engaging me in conversation, and I am shutting it down at every turn by not asking you a question back. Even an and you, and you would be so,
Anything.
anything would be so easy. And so, my recommendation, I call it 2QS, two questions and a statement. So, you ask question one, what type of food? I gave a statement, Italian and Thai. Question two, oh, do you have any favorite places? I gave a statement, Regent Thai. And then you're not going to keep asking me questions. You're not my interviewer here. And, but the reason I do have you answer that last message in a statement is because I never, ever want anyone to accuse you of ghosting them or not answering. And so we're simply closing out the conversation with a statement. Sounds great. Sounds delicious. Yum, yum. I love pad thai. I don't care. So 90% of the time, the conversation was done anyway, and you're just sort of shutting the door. They already shut the door. You're just like putting the deadlock on it. 10% of the time, the other person will come back and ask you a question because they go back to the conversation, realize there's nothing to talk about, realize, oh, I didn't ask a question. Half of that 10% will be, how's it going? Or how's your day? Which is a non-starter.
Yeah, you know how many conversations I've had where it's been, how's your day? Oh, it's great. Okay, cool. Mine's
I
great
don't even
too.
ask my friends. Like, I love my friends. I don't send daily how's your, I don't care. I don't want to say I don't care. I care. But like,
We don't care.
we don't care. I'm not asking a general, how's your day? Like, I'll ask if they did the thing that they told me they were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But how's your day is just so boring, especially if your profile is filled out really well. There's a million other things you can ask. So I'm not saying discount someone immediately if they ask, how's your day? Give it one shot. I wouldn't do, it's good. How about you? Because, like, that's going nowhere. But you could say, it's really good. I surprisingly had the most delicious cannoli today. How about you? They'll either say, okay, when you ask someone how their day is, I'm sorry, I can't shut up about this.
No,
When
I
you
love
ask someone how their day, I did have a cannoli, which is why I'm like probably souped up on sugar. Um, they either say work, relaxing, or laundry. It's like all people say. So if you give them a lead in with the cannoli and they take it and ask about desserts or say something of relevance, okay, maybe it'll turn into a conversation. Maybe it won't.
No, that's really helpful advice because it
Yeah,
is, we get in this kind of monotonous way of doing things where
right.
somebody's asking how your day, you're responding, you ask how
Exactly.
theirs.
It's so boring. And then another piece of advice is don't eat a 2 day old cannoli that's been in your fridge because it's not that good.
You know, I
I'm
feel
just
like
saying,
that
I'm just saying it was very soggy.
I feel like that could be also a start of your fun fact that is going to turn into an actual fun fact when they don't
Hmm.
have a real fun fact on their profile. I
Hmm.
love
We'll get to
those.
that.
Those are my favorite things to watch. Every time you're like, this is not a fun fact. What are
Oh
you
my God.
adding?
Random fact I love is sunshine. No, no. A fun fact I'm obsessed with is microphones. I just can't.
Oh, the amount of times I've seen this, I'm like, that is not a fun fact.
Reading comprehension, people. Anyway,
Yeah, so let's talk about the profile. Like when you set up a good dating profile versus one that's not good. Give us the good one, give us the bad one.
okay. Well, I always keep a representative sample on my phone of good ones. So I'll read you a Hinge one right now. Here's a pretty
Perfect.
good. Here's a good one. It's with my information. I just keep it on my phone to read. I geek out on. This is on Hinge. We have three prompts. I geek out on puns. Oh, well, okay, wait, you'll see. Puns, ping pong, speakeasies slash bourbon, omakase, like sushi, push-ups, Broadway musicals, crosswords, and a well-placed ellipsis, like a dot, dot, dot.
Yeah.
Okay. There's so much what I call message bait in there that you can start a conversation on. I'll fall for you if the idea of telling each other the minutia of our day, like what we ate for lunch, and putting our dates in a Google Calendar sounds like the epitome of romance to you.
There's what I'm really sensing here is detail because it's
Detail,
inviting questions, it's
inviting
inviting a
questions.
conversation.
Lastly, and this one's interactive. Do you agree or disagree that riding the subway is actually fun? Locks on a raisin bagel is a revelation. Please don't argue with me. Socks are to be worn to sleep. Okay.
Yeah, some
So,
hot topics there. You're
yeah,
like
hot
you're
topics.
baiting them.
Any hot takes? Like today, someone wrote, I was on a call with a guy and a woman had written, oh, it made me so angry. She wrote, do you agree or disagree that Tom Hanks is a 0 out of 10? I was angry. So I told him to write, he is at least a 5 out of 10. And if you count big, he is a 10 out of 10. Anyway,
But see, look at that. It starts this great conversation that isn't
exactly.
how are you?
Well, exactly. And so if you've taken the time to fill out your profile and someone gives you a how are you, again, I'm not saying completely say no, but it does tell you something about their laziness.
Yes, there is this piece. Again, when I was talking to my mom, I said, I'm really paying attention to how they're going about planning a date. The first one doesn't have to be a lot. If we're just meeting, we're
Hmm.
exercising an opportunity to get to know each other in real life.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
past that first date, and we continue a second, a third, and down the line, I'm
Hmm.
paying attention to how you're planning a date. Because if you can't plan a date, you
Agree.
can't plan a relationship. You can't
Oh,
plan a
people
relationship,
say
no
that.
marriage.
Yeah, people say that. I would say like everyone's planning styles are a little bit different. So you can sort of push someone into the kind of planning you want. Like if they say, "Is there a spot near you that you like?" and you really prefer that they plan, you can say, "I would love for you to surprise me," or "I would love your recommendations." That's positive reinforcement, but also explaining to them how you want it.
Yeah, that's really good. Also, you have so many good tips. This is also why I follow you on Instagram because it's just
Thank you.
great to, again, back to the no nonsense. You're just cutting down this questioning of so many things that's happening in the dating world.
We could question ourselves to our death, right?
Mhm.
Or we could just go on dates. And like my whole thing is I don't even care if people do online dating. Like I think most people should. What I do care is if you're gonna do it, I want you to do it well. Because I get frustrated, honestly. I mean, I'm on Zoom calls all day with clients and I have them share their screen with me and I see what's going on. And I get frustrated when I see you just not using it well, like passively or ignoring good people or like saying no to or swiping left on people who seem great for, oh, I didn't like the background. I didn't like that chair. Come on, you know? And I see this all the time, and that's what frustrates me. So I just want to make sure people are using the tools as best they can.
Something that you said in there kind of struck my attention to lead you into this. So, when somebody matches with you,
Hmm.
like say you like somebody's photo, but they don't say anything, they just like your photo to match.
Hmm.
Who do you feel like starts that conversation?
You. And when I say you, I mean anybody. So it is lazy that most people will just, and we're talking about on Hinge here, when people just like a photo and don't write anything. I advise everyone who works with me and everyone who follows me to write a message, clearly. However, I can't get through to the world, and most people are lazy. So what I recommend is you got 6 pictures on Hinge. I'm sure you've seen this. Write yourself what I call a Hinge cheat sheet. Okay. For every photo you have posted on Hinge, write a little canned message that has to do with that picture that you can then send to start the conversation. So, for example, let's say you have a picture of yourself in front of a podcasting microphone. Someone likes that picture. You can say, you don't have to tell them you host a podcast if you don't want to. You could say, like, oh, any guesses what I'm doing? TED Talk or podcast?
Mm.
That would be, or stand up, whatever, anything like that. You have a picture of you at a winery. Again, I'm making this up. Oh, thanks for the like. That was actually at a winery in Virginia. Ever, have you ever been? Something quick and easy that starts the conversation. It's still a tailored message, but it's also like you can use that message for every time somebody likes that same picture.
Well, it's helping them, as your Instagram is called, a little nudge in the direction.
Yeah, yeah. Because
I,
then it'll be very clear. Because if you just like someone back, the conversation never starts. I mean, like most people don't start a conversation. I'd rather you start it and then you'll know immediately if someone's going to engage with you or not.
yeah, this is also good. I keep saying this is great advice, but
Yeah,
you're
this
just
is
this is
great
what you're
advice. I hope we're recording this.
it's here for a reason. I can't help it. Now, I do want to talk about ghosting. Ghosting is
Okay.
wild. It is a truly wild west
Horrible.
situation out here.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on ghosting? Let's start there.
Don't do it. Okay, here's how do you define ghosting?
I define ghosting. If I haven't met you, I don't really read too much into it.
I
If a
agree with you.
conversation falls off,
I agree.
but I do like the respectful, as long as there is a close, whether it just be, hey, thanks, it was really great to meet you. End of
Hmm.
conversation, nothing comes of it. That's what happened.
Hmm.
But if you're actively having a conversation with someone and there's any inclination that you may be going out again,
Yeah,
you have to say, "Hey, I don't want to go out again."
I
At
agree with
that
you.
point in time, wherever that is in the
Yeah.
situation for somebody.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my definition. If someone makes themselves vulnerable, and when I say vulnerable, I don't mean like, oh my God, tell you my family history. I mean, like, asks you a question that requires a response and you don't answer, I consider that ghosting, not you, the collective you. So, do you want to go out again? You have to answer. You owe the person an answer. Um, that's like basic. That's basic. I mean, even worse is you've been out a number of times and you ask a question and the other person doesn't answer. That's horrible. You know,
Yeah.
there has to be some acknowledgement.
Well,
So,
because then it creates the cycle effect too, because somebody gets ghosted, then they're going to ghost somebody else because this is how it was handled this way. It's like the cycle continues to repeat itself.
I don't know if that's the worst part or it's more, what did I do wrong? I'm going to
Hmm.
overanalyze everything that I ever said and did to this person, me, when it really has nothing to do with you. It's just the other person's inability to communicate. And so, I don't actually think, I wonder if there's a study on this or if I should do one. I don't actually think getting ghosted would make someone ghost someone. I think it would make them think twice about ghosting someone because it kills. I think it's more, it's hurtful because there's no closure. And you can get over someone if they tell you no, but it's really hard to get over someone if they tell you nothing.
It's true. And I've seen it both ways. I've had both experiences where I personally have been ghosted and I make sure that I don't because I've had
Hmm.
that experience. But I've also talked with people who say, well, somebody else did it to me. So, I'm just going to do it
That's
to somebody
awful.
else. Yeah.
That's the worst rationale I've ever heard.
Oh, I'm entirely with you. It's
You
crazy
are,
that I
no.
feel I
I'm
that
not like, I know.
yeah, but it's crazy that it goes those both ways, right? And that's ghosting to me is just such an impersonal way of existing within the world, but it's very common.
I know.
How do you handle when somebody is being ghosted? Say, put me in the chair. Say I get ghosted. Do
Mhm.
I reach out to this person again to try and get closure, or do I just accept that the ghosting happened?
What do you want to do? And how long has it been? Let's make an actual scenario here.
Okay. Oh gosh, it's been a minute because I'm an over communicator at this point in my
All
life.
right,
I make sure people
no, I
communicate.
mean, no, I don't mean how long has it been since you got ghosted. I mean, in our scenario,
Yeah.
how long have you known this person? How many
Okay.
dates have you been on? Like, where are we?
Say we've gone on 5 dates
Okay, that's good.
and we are having a great time. The conversation feels like we're headed to continue doing this. The
Mm-hmm.
person disappears.
Mm-hmm. And you
How do
had
you handle?
asked something that clearly required a response.
Yeah, or at least said, hey, like, can't wait to see you again or excited
Mhm.
to see you again. Something that insinuated, hey, we are on track to be able to go out again.
Do you usually communicate daily? You can make this up. This is a fake
Yeah,
scenario.
I would say most people, at least this day and age, especially with their phones, tend to communicate at somewhat
Okay,
daily.
so it's out of character, is what I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay, how many days go by before you're like, am I being ghosted?
3 days.
Okay. What do you want to do at 3 days?
I think me as a natural person, I think most people, especially having been out that many times, would want to communicate and find out why.
I agree with you. Unfortunately, a lot of people say to themselves, well, if they didn't reach out to me, I don't really want to reach out to them. I'm going to give the same energy. I disagree with that. I think the first thing, I actually posted a video on this today. It was exactly the scenario, but it was 7 days. Um, I would just check in. Just checking in, haven't heard from you. Everything okay?
Hmm. Yeah,
Now, if you don't get an answer to that, I think this is your question. What do I do? First of all, it stinks and I'm sorry because I hate this. And just shows, can you even imagine being in an actual relationship with this person? They have an issue and just like, what's the equivalent? Walk out the door, never to return again? That's horrible.
it
Anyway,
is. It does give you an insight into who they are and how they act in a relationship. So you are better off. But I know there's so many people
yeah.
that
So what
feel
do you
that
want to
ghosting.
what do you want to do in the moment? And then I'll give you my advice.
I think there's a large part of me that if I already said, "Hey, I'd like to see you again," and they didn't, I think I would just let it go and try to move on.
Letting it go is a valid choice. I never let things go, which could be good or bad. I was once talking to my mom and she was like, "You need a lot more closure than I do." I'm like, "That's nice." But everyone's on their phone. So, like, it was different then, you know?
Yeah.
So, I generally recommend if you cannot move past this without saying something, and that's an if, because not reaching out is also a valid choice. I would say something that doesn't berate the other person, that doesn't ask another question, that doesn't make them tell you they don't like you, because that's clearly what it is. They don't like you anymore. I don't know why. Rather, this message would be solely for the purpose of getting your own closure and setting yourself free. So it's something like, I'm not sure why I haven't heard from you since our last message, or I'm disappointed I haven't heard from you since our last message. I really enjoyed our 5 dates together and was hoping to keep getting to know each other. I wish you the best.
It's a good
Actually,
closure piece.
yeah, I sent it to someone today. Let me just read it, what I actually wrote. I'm not sure what happened, but that's basically what I just said. But I'm disappointed I never heard back from you after what I considered, in this case, it was 6 weeks. We'll go with 5 wonderful dates. I do wish you had kindly let me know you were no longer interested. Regardless, this will be my last communication.
It's respectful, it's honest, and it's allowing you to move
And
forward.
it's not giving them any power. It's saying, I noticed, I don't like it, goodbye. It's not saying why, because someone told me this analogy and I don't know where they got it, but I liked it. If a snake bites you, is your first inclination to tend to your wound, or is it to run after the snake asking why it bit you? Obviously not. Now you can say, "Curses, snake, I hate you," which is basically what this text is, but nicer. But you're going to tend to your wounds.
Yeah, and yet we still like to chase after the snake sometimes.
Yeah, you can tell the snake off, but nicely in this way I just did, which is basically like, I noticed you, snake. I wasn't into it. Didn't deserve that. Be well.
Yes.
But
No
we're
more
not going to
snake
be like,
chasing in
yeah, we're not
2025.
going to chase a snake and be like, why did you bite me? It's just, no.
Yeah, there nobody gets anything out of that. There is
Mm-mm.
no win there.
So I do like that closure message. I think it's extremely empowering. You asked 2 people, one calls it empowering, one calls it desperate, which I disagree with. That's my recommendation. But,
Yeah. And
it's
you
not
have
for
to go
everybody.
with I do think there's different scenarios for different things too, to your point. There's sometimes where you feel you really need to send that message if you have a really special connection. Other times you're like, well, maybe this wasn't what I thought it was, kind of thing. And I think it depends on the connection that you have with that human
Yes, the
being.
connection, the time frame. Look, in 5 dates, maybe you will have slept with someone at that point. That would hurt way more.
Yeah. Speaking of sleeping with, not that that's the conversation I'm headed, but it's getting me in this direction. One of your other very strategic things that you tell people is dating NATO,
Hmm.
which is not attached to the outcome. And
Hmm.
I've adapted this into my dating, and it's been
Great.
super helpful because I think I had reached a point where you date enough, and I've gone on many dates in my lifetime, and
Yep.
I've learned a lot about people. I've learned a lot about myself.
Hmm.
But you do get to a point where you feel hopeless and you're just,
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, you get bummed and you get tired, and then you go back up. You're like, okay, we're ready again.
Yeah,
But having this really has helped me not kind of go on that roller coaster ride as much.
that makes me really happy. That's great. So how do you, I mean, I know how I write it, but like, how do you interpret that? What, like in layman's terms, what does it mean to you?
That you go out with someone with the intention that you would like to meet someone, but you're not attaching yourself to what's going to happen
Good,
after that
good.
date is over.
Okay, exactly. So many people put pressure on themselves, like, is this the one? Is this my future long-term relationship? Is this my future spouse? Is this my future parent of my future child? It's so much. And it's like, this is a stranger. I don't know. Because when you put so much pressure on yourself, one, you're not even present on the date anymore because you're just evaluating this person against some criteria that they don't even know about. But two, you're saying there's only one definition of success. And I understand that the end goal for many people is that long-term relationship. But to try to backfill this stranger into, could you be my future partner? when you don't know each other is just, I don't know, it's counterproductive. So I'd rather you just meet a new person, see how you feel about this person. And the only thing you need to know after a first date is, am I curious enough about this person to go on a second date? That's about it.
Yeah, I really loved this. This has genuinely shifted, especially in
Thank
just
you.
in the
I'm glad.
dating, truly, because in the dating world for me, I've been in it, in and out of it for so long that you start to get into your habits and you start to do things the way that you think they're supposed to be done. And I feel like you just bring such a fresh perspective and just truly thinking of things just so bluntly versus, let's sit
Thank
here and
you.
analyze this for 30 minutes.
Well, exactly. I mean, yeah, I try to be nice, but like I do try to cut through all of the stuff just to see exactly what is going on.
Well, it's more helpful than somebody just kind of helping me beat around a bush because
Well,
it's
yeah,
not
no one's
helping the other
paying me to
person.
be like, okay, sweetie. I mean, again, I'm nice. I mean, someone today told me I called her out on something, and then she was like, I could tell she didn't like it. And then she was like, no, I needed it. I'm like, okay.
No, we all need that friend, and you've become that friend for a lot of people on
Oh,
social
thanks.
media.
Being my real friend, though, is always interesting because I got to keep my big mouth shut because they're not asking for advice. So,
It is true. You have to be prepared. You're like, okay, well, I'm just a listener in this situation. I
mhm.
am not an advice
Oh,
giver.
I had such a struggle yesterday with something. I don't even know why I'm bringing this up, but I'm telling you anyway. So I was at the gym, and I would call this woman a friendly acquaintance. We're friendlier than acquaintances. Like we've gotten drinks before, and she's wedding planning, and I've met her fiance, nice guy. And she told me, God, I hope she's not listening to this. She told me they're planning their wedding, and it's been stressful because she wants to get married in a church and he doesn't. And ultimately, he conceded and said that he would get married in the church. And she was still upset because she wanted him to want to get married in the church. And she told me that before class. Uh, and the whole class, I mean, what else are you thinking about? I'm like on the rower. Like, what am I going to think about? So I'm thinking about this. And to me, it was so clear that all he needs is some appreciation for conceding and doing the thing he doesn't really want to do, but he wants to make her happy. And I thought the whole time, I'm like, Erica, don't say anything. This is not, she did not ask your advice, nothing. But I could tell how stressed I didn't know what to do. So after class, I said, would you be open to some advice I have? You can say no. And she said yes. And I said, okay. I said, if I am overstepping, tell me to shut up. And I told her exactly what I just said to you. I said, I think he's just looking for some appreciation. And I said to her, he's never going to want it like you do, ever. And I made an analogy. I said, let's say you and I are going to lunch. You want to go next door, and I want to go to a place in my neighborhood. And you see, it's important to me to go in my neighborhood. So you agree to go in my neighborhood. And instead of being grateful that you've said, okay, I'll do what you want, I'm upset that you don't want to come to lunch in my neighborhood, that you're just going through the motions. Instead, I could just say to you, that's really nice of you. I really appreciate that. I know it's not what you wanted. And I think that would bode better for our relationship. And I still feel weird about giving the advice, and I still kind of regret bringing it up because she didn't ask. On the other hand, it was good advice. So I don't know.
I think sometimes, honestly, though, just like your Instagram is, some people need that push in a direction that they're not going to think about.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it is really hard, but again, you didn't just go in and say that advice
Oh, I
without
would
you
never.
asked.
I always ask, and even with clients, even though they're literally paying me to do my job, I always say before I say any critique, positive or otherwise, about their profile, I always say, do I have permission to be honest? Or if I see something physical I think might be hurting them, if it's a simple fix that will cost no money, I might suggest it. And then I'll say, do I have permission to make a physical observation? Only
See,
one person in almost 14 years has said no. And I didn't.
but they're also not getting their money's worth, but that's a different story.
Fair enough.
I think you did the right thing in this scenario, and
I
I
don't
think it's going to
know.
help in the long run. I
I
do.
don't know if I did, but I hope it helped. Because, like, I could see how stressed anyway, I know that's a little off topic.
No, but it's also kind of on because, that is a very great here's the thing. We all focus so heavily on the dating and getting on the date and finding the partner
Hmm.
that we almost forget when we find the partner how to be a partner.
Yeah, and like the work's not over.
Yeah,
And
it's
it should
just
be fun.
beginning.
I know work has a bad connotation, but like you have to maintain. Yeah, maintenance.
hmm I want to ask you one more thing before we go because
Okay.
it's such a hot topic on social
Oh boy.
media. The ick.
Oh God. Okay.
People get the ick. I'm guilty of it. You know, everybody has had their moments where they've
Hmm.
gotten the ick on
Yeah.
ridiculous or just valid things.
Yeah, yeah, some are valid.
Yeah, but how do you feel about the ick? What are we doing
Oh,
here?
it's so overused. I am so tired of hearing about the ick. Oh my God, did this one little baby thing and I got the ick. Get over it. Because, like, if everyone gets the ick, there's nobody left. And some are completely valid. Some are like way more than an ick. Some are a red flag or some are just problems. But if someone just, okay, this is, I don't know, this may have been before you started following me, but this girl wrote in once and she was like, I got the ick because he used his napkin wrong. Do you remember this? Okay.
I've seen
And
some funny ones, but this one was funny.
it was hilarious. And I had to know, how do you use a napkin wrong? Like I thought maybe he put it on his chest like a bib. He put it on his head. I don't know. How do you use a napkin wrong? Anyway, she she said that he had it rolled up around the utensils and just like dabbed his face without unrolling the napkin, which is weird, I'll admit.
It is weird.
I thought maybe he was nervous. Anyway, to get the ick from that, I don't know. I personally, in the moment, would be like, you can unroll that. Like, that's my personality. Clearly, it was not hers. Or my mom always taught me you unroll it. But that to me is the silliest. Or like someone told me she got the ick because he had a Superman wallet. And I'm like, what if his nephew gave it to him and it's his like prized possession? So we have to, there are ranges of icks, you know?
There are
If you get
ranges.
the ick because someone is rude to a server, that's not an ick. That's a red flag.
Yes, very different. We've
Very
kind of
different.
muddied those waters between an ick and a red flag for
Hmm.
sure. So
Hmm.
that's why I wanted to ask you because it is. Listen, again, some of them are valid, some of them are just your preferences, and maybe you just say this is my
Preferences.
preference.
Exactly. Exactly. So what's, never, I won't put you on the spot to
Oh,
ask.
you it's okay. You can
What's like
ask.
a funny one you that annoyed you?
Oh, this is a funny one because it always leads somewhere else.
Okay.
But I get the ick if I've so say I'm dating a guy for a while and then I go to his house and he doesn't have a headboard. I know that sounds strange, but hear
It
me out.
doesn't, it does not sound strange, actually. You
The
want a
re
grown up with a grown up bed.
Yes, that's the reason. I'm like, if we can't even have a headboard, sir, I don't know that this is going to work in the capacity as we keep going down the line. This is really fun and casual, but that's what your bed's screaming at me.
I don't hate that ick.
Okay, so I'm not bad for that one.
No, you're not bad.
But it is a funny one, and I've never I had a guy that I dated for a while who didn't have one, so it wasn't enough for me to like not, but it definitely alerted me
Hmm.
to say, what else do we not have together? Let's pay attention to the rest of our life. What else are we not 100% working on? And it just allowed me to like open my mind and see what else was going
Yeah.
on in his life.
It's funny though, because we don't notice our own stuff. So if he's never had a headboard, he probably doesn't even notice that he doesn't have a headboard.
And that's why it can be a controversial ick because some people just are like, "What? I don't have no, you're
Right.
not supposed to have one."
We don't notice our own. I mean, I have one, but that's neither here nor there.
Every pretty much every woman I know has a headboard.
Yeah, I wouldn't be caught dead sleeping. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
So there's mine. That is my controversial one, I will
Okay, okay.
admit.
It could be way worse.
It could be. I listen, as especially as I've gotten older, you just learn and you experience a lot of things and you understand people better. And that's part of dating is experience and understanding the world.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Well, Erica, thank you so much. Is there any last words of wisdom that you maybe want to share or something that's just on your chest, your heart? You're like, I feel like the people, especially my single people, need to know
Oh
this or
my
hear
God, I feel
this.
like I've shared all of my wisdom. What to do, what to do. I don't want to say no,
You
but
can say no.
I think I'm gonna leave on a high note. I think this was pretty good.
Okay. Well, Erica, thank you for chatting with me and talking all things dating. Again, you are a great follow on Instagram, so go check her out at a little nudge. I personally follow her. She's my dating coach. She doesn't even know it. And I utilize a lot of the stuff she says. So thank you again, Erica, just for being here.
Thank you.